So what does the next 3 months look like? I mean, obviously it's all very different in terms of the domestic, normal sort of university school season is pretty much coming to an end. Internationally, obviously the Olympics should have been soon. What's it going to look like next 3 months for you guys?
So we're currently we're just coming to the end of a 4-week break. Looking at with the information that I had available in kind of April, May kind of time, it seemed like obviously there's no racing going to happen. And as I kind of alluded to earlier, I didn't want to keep dragging a season out all the way to kind of Henley or the under-23 World Championships as we would normally have done. So my approach was, let's just have a break now, and then we're going to start back the 4th of July, which hopefully might work out because it seems like that's when there might be some more restrictions lifted. But just looking at it with a view of, okay, we're actually in a good position now that we're not normally, because as Dave said, we kind of usually get to the end of Henley, and I don't know about, well, I guess your progress might be different, but usually after Henley, most of my athletes are just like, don't talk to me, I don't want to hear from you for 6 weeks and I'll come back. But I think they've not really had any closure. So we're going to start again 4th of July, and I guess just use those essentially 2 extra months we wouldn't normally have to just work on a bit more kind of skill development, as Dave said as well, kind of like just build that base physiology a little bit better, and hopefully start, as we get to September, October, when, there might be some racing to do, we could actually be in a better position by then. That's kind of how I wanted to look at it, in that the way we have to train in the UK is so dictated by the racing calendar. So actually, if you take that racing calendar away, you're like, okay, well, here's a chance we're probably never going to have again. So let's kind of try and do something different, essentially.
It's one of the ridiculous things, isn't it, in the UK, is that the best weather is July and August, and most of the British rowers don't row or race.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does sound ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know as well, but kind of for the rest of you guys, is have you changed the type of training that you were prescribing to the athletes as lockdown has gone on? Have you adapted to feedback from the athletes?
Adapted the feedback from the athletes? What do you mean by that?
As in, were you setting a certain type of training or a certain volume, and has that program changed essentially based on what the athletes have been feeding back to you, or have you just found that the athletes have just been happy to just get on with whatever you've been setting them?
Well, we shifted gears pretty quickly here, because we were right on the cusp of going into our regular regatta calendar. So, it's mid-March and we start racing at the end of March for real. So all the preparations for 2,000 meter racing were coming to a head, and then poof, we were nothing. So we shifted gears quite quickly to go back into, early preparation mode, because now the sites were 12 months out. So returning to this, so I think there was a bit of an opportunity to take some of the urgency away. The collegiate season here, it's a 9-month season that you have access to them, and then there are rules that we have to follow, and that ebbs and flows on how much access we have to them. So this was an opportunity to just pause, take some of the urgency away, and lay some foundation. And the same thing, again, I'm wearing the 2 hats right now. So with the under-23 group, I actually have a lot more activity. So we had to shift out those gears. And this was an opportunity to move from what is normally, a 6-week, urgent, throw together a team and head to the under-23 championship. And now I'm going to have, 12 months plus contact with them. So the training went back into just, volume, working on technical things. I actually train with that group 3 times a week on Zoom. They do training sessions with me. So I've got, 45 faces on the screen. and they're all sitting on ergos, and we're running through a training session. And then we'll do technical work with them, fundamental technical work with them as much as you can on their ergometer. So yeah, it completely shifted gears, and it was a bit of whiplash. And I think that we had a number of reactions to that. I think that there were, the pretty hard drivers, the ones that, float to the top of the roster. They that day, I said, well, the season has to be over. They all went and grabbed an ergometer and said, can I sign this out? Because if I don't get on this thing today, I'm going to burn the place down. That approach. And then others kind of, took some more management to get their heads around it. And I think that the time between then and now has been interesting, because right around now is when we would be out the other end of the NCAA championship. And they would be on their own and have a training program for me that would look very similar. But between then and now has been interesting to watch them and the different reactions to it. Some behaved like they had a season and they trained that hard right through it, and I had to try and get them to back it down a little bit. While others just sort of were in a different stage of mourning, I guess would be the best way to put it. And they responded to it differently. And so, some of them sort of put their head underneath their pillow, and while others just, forged ahead.
How about you, Roger? What have you done with the training?
Look, we still run a very structured program where everything's on Zoom. 8:05 every morning, the whole team is on Zoom every day. Sundays, they can do their own training, but Monday to Saturday, the team clocks in. The coaches and us meet every morning at 7:30, discuss all the athletes, how they're doing psychologically, their scores from the ergo. Adrian, I've got a huge database. My Excel database now is about 20,000 rows of data. So I've been able to analyze that a lot better. So I've managed to get my tracking a whole lot better of the athletes from an ergo perspective. We still ergoing and running probably 160, 170 Ks a week, which is a lot of volume. But what I've definitely noticed with the athletes is we're very much a team environment where we're a centralized team. We're based in one area, so everyone feeds off each other, and that's the biggest thing they've lost. So the big guns haven't been able to pull that hard. They don't push themselves to new limits, and we've sort of made a deal that they're not going to do much testing, because they feel in this awkward stage in the world that it's hard to push themselves really hard. They want to train well, but they only want to do a test or something that's got a lot of meaning to it. Is it for selection? Is it going to be a PB? And right now, for me, it's not the time to really push the athletes to these emotional states of a lot of stress. So we've focused a lot more on good base training, obviously, when you're doing those amounts of training. Very good threshold training. I've even learned a lot about better threshold training, because in our environment, thresholds almost become too hard, where the guys just want to thump each other. If you're doing 5-10 minute pieces of 26, as long as you're ahead of your opponent that you're trying to get his spouse seat from him, you're going to just make sure you beat him and then die at the end of it. So we've really looked at how do we do things better, obviously on the ergo, in training, and really try to build this threshold training, which, as you guys know, physiologists and everyone talk about, how do you get in the exact right zone for that zone 1 and zone 3 work. And I think we've made some better improvements on that relative to our normal season, when I've just got this pack of lions all just trying to beat each other up. We sort of have this Zoom group every morning. Everyone's got to put their time as they do their one piece between the 2-minute break. They've got to post their time on the group, so everyone can see what each other's pulling. But what I've noticed is guys aren't going after each other. We've got now a better understanding that you're just trying to improve yourself. You're training to, I don't like training to heart rates always, training to heart rate, perceived effort. And we're seeing some good performances come out of more power, less effort. I mean, that's what as coaches we were looking for. So we've really concentrated our program very much on, that power, more power and less effort. I did put them in the boats and sculling boats last week, and I almost cried. I couldn't watch it. It was so bad. From being out the boats for 9 weeks, it wasn't rowing. And I really feel in the States, Andrew, how you guys have to deal with your rules that you can't be in boats for so long. I mean, in South Africa, we have summer pretty much all year round, besides June and July. And we rowing all the time. And this is the longest my team's never been in a rowing boat. We haven't been in for 9 weeks. And honestly, when I saw these good guys, I mean, some really good rowers in Scullers, it was not rowing. They could not feel the boat underneath them. There was no catch. There was no acceleration. And it really taught me how bad ergos, we've got a few RP3s in the team, 3 or 4, not many, but how bad ergos kill technique. It's actually, as I say, my coaches saw me crying on the bank thinking, what has happened? We need to get back in boats as soon as possible, because it's great the physiology is coming right, but the technique is horrendous. And Adrian, you know, within our team, it's something we focus a lot on, is rowing all year round. And we do a lot of mileage in boats because it takes for me so much to get the right feeling and understanding of moving a boat well.
Yeah, and I guess that's one of the things that's going to be quite interesting going forward in the season, isn't it? Is that how much water can you do? How much, I mean, for you, small boats, maybe it's a bit easier, but for like you guys in the 8s and stuff, when are you going to be able to do 8s? And how soon are the kids going to be able to come down to the boathouse? I mean, Dave, you've got a brand new boathouse. You probably can't even use it.
Yeah. So the boathouse is up, it's fitted out, it's ready to go. And, or maybe it's got about 1 week's worth of the finer details being done. But yeah, essentially it's good to go. And then lockdown came and we're all kicked out, and it's been condemned for now. So, which is a real shame. You know, we thought we'd be able to use that, you know, for this season. However, it's so exciting for the kids to think about coming back to in September, which is a real positive. So at least they've got that to be looking forward to. You know, in September they got this shiny brand new boathouse. How it'll need to be organised and how the rowing side is going to work, that'll be yet to be seen, won't it? I think if they reduce these restrictions to 1 metre, I suspect that will make life a lot easier in terms of crew boats. So
it's like 1.5 metres between seats, isn't it? So that should be okay.
You'd have thought so. The only worry is the motion of rowing is that you're going through people's exhaling the air, you know, and all the rest of it, and all the micro droplets that go with that. So, but to the back of the head is better to the front. So, so I hope that we'll be able to get into crew stuff. I mean, we're a boarding school as well, so you know, maybe we can be clever about some of the rowers being in the same houses, so they're essentially then being single occupancy. So I don't know if that's a way around it. If we were to do it now, I think that may be a way around things. However, come September, I'd like to think that things are lifted. I think they're looking like it's going to stage 3 pretty soon. And what that means for us, you'd like to think it's going to be a little easier. But, you know, in terms of the management of the boathouse and the management of the students in and around the boathouse, that's obviously going to change. You know, we'll have to look at the sort of the cleanliness in a positive. The boats might actually get washed now and cleaned, so that'll be a positive, trying to get the students to actually disinfect things and all the rest of it. But which, again, that's a positive. You know, I don't know about you guys, but since lockdown I've not been ill, haven't had a cold or the rest of it. And you think maybe going forwards we're, as a society, learning these better habits, and maybe that will lead to less illness throughout the season, which is a positive. You know, we'll get these new habits that are ingrained, and maybe we will be healthier for it.
It's interesting, both you, Roger, you and Andrew both mentioned Zoom. I started joining a zoom-ergs group as well, and it's surprisingly engaging and social with other people. I mean, it's amazing, the guys chat and everything. And I mean, from my situation, it's a lot of 50-year-old blokes farting and scratching themselves and then making a joke. But it's amazing how engaging it is. You do the work, everybody buries themselves, and then you just have a conversation afterwards, even a coffee on the weekends, just chatting.
Yeah, that's worked really well.
Yeah, it's worked really well here. I was really interested to see if it was going to fall flat or not. We decided to go down this road with the U.S. rowing group, and I work with a couple of other coaches, Brett Gorman, who works for U.S. Rowing, and Liz Tuppen. Roger, you would know at the University of Michigan. She's on the staff with me.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and we went into the first couple of sessions thinking, these women are going to think this is stupid. You know? But we went through a couple of sessions, and then, you know, we meet with them also in individual meetings, and then we have group meetings each week. And the feedback was like 100%, like, thank goodness for this. Because it provided a sense of normalcy to their life. You know, I'm supposed to check in at this particular time, and that's how their normal life works. You know, I go to training at this time, and they had that, and I trained with a bunch of other people, and they had that, or some sense of it, at least. And like Roger was saying, you know, posting of scores and everybody knowing what one another are doing. And there were small pockets too. So, you know, this is made up of collegiate rowers from throughout the country, and some of those women had stayed where they were. So, for example, we have a couple here at the University of Iowa who are on that squad. They stayed in Iowa City, you know, roommates, whatever, and they would be together training because they're kind of like in a family unit. So then you had these pods on the screen now. There were 2 or 3 people on a particular group. So it was, yeah, it's been really positive, I think. And, you know, we're just trying to be creative on how we have that evolve and become better at it. But, you know, my initial thing, thinking that we're going to fall on our face, was a bit pessimistic, and it turned out to be a fantastic thing.
Dave, I have to say, I'm very happy Shiplake got a new boathouse, as I went to Shiplake College in '94. I was a school there.
Yeah,
and,
I understand that.
And that boathouse I thought needed to be new then. And I'm amazed that 20 years later, they finally built a new. I'd love to see it. Next time I'm there, I'd love to come see it.
100%. When you're in the UK, you'll have to come and check it out. But it's quite impressive. So it's got four boat bays.
Wow.
Which include, well, 3 in the workshop, which is a full boat bay, and then there's a training facility upstairs with
awesome.
Yeah, weights room and erg room, and they've even fitted in a climbing wall in there. Yeah, and a shooting range. So so the kit. So that's where we'll do crew selection. We'll take we'll take them in the firing range. So it's to try and service the whole school. So it's a bit of an activity centre as well as the boathouse. So it'll be pretty cool actually.
That's really awesome to hear. Well done.
Yeah.
We've found, Adrian, on Zoom that there's got that amazing recording function. So you can record different screens. So we found with the athletes is recording their ergo sessions and at different stroke rates, and obviously how technique sometimes goes when they're getting a little bit tired or when the stroke rate comes up. And we've done quite a lot of analysis just on video work, which I never thought was possible on the ergo. Not that helps how they move boats, be assured, It doesn't help, but it definitely helps with stability in their back, seeing whether guys have got flexibility issues around their Achilles tendon, around the hamstring, you know, tight hamstrings, those sort of things. So Zoom's definitely allowed that, and it's one of the few platforms that you can record an individual screen. It gets uploaded straight to the cloud, and then you can send it to the athlete straight after the session. So from that Zoom perspective, from a training wise, it's been quite beneficial.
So it doesn't matter how far away you are from the athletes, they can't hide, can they?
No, from that side, it's actually been good. You actually see how some of them live, and that they are, as Kieran said, they are in their lounge, and they're literally ergoing in their kitchen, some of them, and they've got their cereal bowl right next to them, having a scoop of cereal as they're warming up. Half my athletes have been waking up 5 minutes before the session starts. So as you know, you can see there's no hiding, and there's no good warm-ups happening.
And I think what's also interesting, I mean, all my kids have come home, and some on the row and stuff. The lack of routine is a real problem. I think creating a structure for them to get up for something, like you're saying, you have to be there for 8. I think that's a really important part of it, because otherwise you just leave everything drift to the end of the day, and it's not healthy mentally.
Yeah, we've had students that have been, you know, reporting back that they're going to bed at 4 a.m. and, you know, and sleeping through till sort of 12, and their whole day's just shifted. I mean, that's during the holiday times, and then when, you know, that's why when term starts and they've been doing all the online lessons, it's been really good for them, because there's sort of 8:30 tutor periods and the rest of it. But, you know, kids, as soon as that structure's taken away from them, things just drift dramatically, which can't be great for their mental health. And it's kind of what they're doing at that time of night as well. And undoubtedly it'll be on social media, it'll be on the screens, and all the hazards that go with that as well. And I think that's kind of a downside to this whole period of time, is the amount of time that is spent on technology, and you can't really get away from it. And it's great having the Zoom this, the Zoom that, but I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm pretty fed up of Zoom quizzes now, which seemed like a great idea when they started. It was really, really fun. But yeah, by your 20th quiz of coming last or second to last, it's it kind of dries up a little bit. But I think when you've not got any escape from it so much, that obviously people keep banging on about the mental health side, you can see how the sort of depression kicks in quite quickly. But equally, you like to think that it's quite quickly reversible as well, when things start to get back to normality, that hopefully the hangover from this, there won't really be a hangover, I'd like to think. But that's yet to be seen. But just looking at it at the moment, you think actually when we're given the green light and normality is restored, I think it'll be a distant memory. I'd like to hope anyway.